Chapter 19, The Egg Sack. The next morning the first light came into the sky and the sparrows were stirring in the trees. When the cows rattled their chains and the roosters crowed and the early automobiles went whispering along the road, Wilbur awoke and looked for Charlotte. He saw her up overhead in the corner near the back of his pen. She was very quiet, her 8 legs spread wide, and she seemed to have shrunk during the night. Next to her, attached to the ceiling, Wilbur saw a curious object. It was sort of a sack or cocoon. It was peach-colored and looked as though it were made of cotton candy. "Are you awake, Charlotte?" he said softly. "Yes," came the voice. "What is that nifty little thing? Did you make it?" "I did indeed," replied Charlotte. In a weak voice, "Is it a plaything?" "Plaything, I should say not. It is my egg sack, my magnum opus." "I don't know what a magnum opus is," said Wilbur. "That's Latin," explained Charlotte, "and it means great work. This egg sack is my great work, the finest thing I've ever made." "What's inside of it?" asked Wilbur. "Eggs?" 514 of them, she replied. 514, said Wilbur. "You're kidding." "No, I am not. I counted them. I got started counting, so I kept on, just to keep my mind occupied." "It's a perfectly beautiful egg sack," said Wilbur, feeling as happy as though he had constructed it himself. "Yes, it is pretty," replied Charlotte, patting the sack with her front 2 legs. "Anyway, I can guarantee that it is strong. It's made out of the toughest material I have. It is also waterproof. The eggs are inside and will be warm and dry." "Charlotte," said Wilbur dreamily, "are you really going to have 514 children?" "If nothing happens, yes," said she said. "Of course. They won't show up till next spring." Wilbur noticed that Charlotte's voice sounded sad. "What makes you sound so downhearted? I should think that you would be terribly happy about this." "Oh, don't pay any attention to me," said Charlotte. "I just don't have much pep anymore. I guess I feel sad because I won't ever see my children." "What do you mean you won't see your children? Of course you will. We will all see them. It is going to be simply wonderful next spring in the barn cellar with all 514 baby spiders running around all over the place. And the geese will have a new set of goslings, and the sheep will have their new lambs." "Well, maybe," said Charlotte quietly. "However, I have a feeling I am not going to see the results of last night's efforts. I don't feel good at all. I think I'm languishing, to tell you the truth." Wilbur didn't understand the word languish, and he hated to bother Charlotte by asking her to explain, but he was so worried he felt like he had to ask. "What does languishing mean?" "It means I'm slowing up, feeling my age. I'm not young anymore, Wilbur, but I do not want you to worry about me. This is your big day today. Look at my web. Doesn't it show up well in the dew, with the dew on it?" Charlotte's web never looked more beautiful than it looked this morning. Each strand held dozens of bright droplets of early morning dew, and the light from the east struck it and made it plain and clear, and it was perfect piece of designing and building. In another hour or two, a steady stream of people would be passing by, admiring it and reading it and looking at Wilbur and marveling at the miracle. As Wilbur was studying the web, a pair of whiskers and a sharp face appeared. Slowly, Templeton himself dragged himself across the pen and threw himself down in the corner. "I'm back," he said in a husky voice. "What a night!" The rat was swollen twice his normal size. His stomach was as big and round as a jelly jar. "What a night!" he repeated hoarsely. "What feasting and carousing! A real gorge. I must have eaten remains of 30 lunches. Never have I seen such leavings and everything well ripened and seasoned with the passage of time and heat of the day. Oh, it was rich, my friends, rich. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, said Charlotte in disgust. It would serve you right that if you had an acute attack of indigestion. Don't worry about my stomach, snarled Templeton. I can handle anything. And by the way, I've got some bad news. As I came past the pig next door, the one that calls himself Uncle, I noticed a blue tag on the front of his pen. That means he won first prize. I guess you're licked, Wilbur. You might as well relax. Nobody is going to hang a medal on you. Furthermore, I wouldn't be surprised if Zuckerman changes his mind about you. Wait until he gets a hankering for some fresh pork and smoked ham, crispy bacon. He'll take a knife to you, my boy. Be still, Templeton, said Charlotte. You're too stuffed and bloated to know what you're saying. Don't pay any attention to him, Wilbur. Wilbur tried to think about what the rat had just said. Wilbur tried not to think about what the rat had just said. He decided to change the subject. Templeton, said Wilbur, if you weren't so dopey, you might have noticed that Charlotte has made an egg sack. She is going to become a mother. And for your information, there are 514 eggs in that peachy little sack. Is that true? Asked the rat, eyeing the sack suspiciously. Yes, it is true, sighed Charlotte. Well, congratulations, muttered Templeton. This has been a night. He closed his eyes, pulled the straw over himself, and dropped off into a deep sleep. Wilbur and Charlotte were glad to be rid of him for a while.